Hello, 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 hello. Hello, good morning, good morning, good morning, hello, good morning. This is Thursday, the morning of Thursday, May the 21st, May 21, 2026, May 21, 2026. I want to get on here to clarify some things concerning the self-certification of homelessness. I want to make sure everyone understands what it is. The government, the US government, Congress, back in the 80s, made it mandatory for public housing agencies to prioritize the application of a person that is homeless and is on their waiting list. Then later on in the 90s, they removed the mandate. It was no longer mandatory. They allowed for housing agencies, public housing agencies, to choose how they would handle the preference of applications for individuals who are homeless, who are experiencing homelessness. And so, with that, there's been the third-party homeless verification. And with the third-party homeless verification, any organization, nonprofit, that would provide emergency shelter to an individual for 24 hours or more, whether that be in their own shelter that they have, or whether it be at a hotel. If they pay for a hotel for someone for 24 hours or more, then they would complete that third-party verification. Also, outreach workers could complete that third-party verification. There's been a lot of difficulties. I receive lots of calls from people. They have difficulties getting the third-party verification of homelessness. Now, having verification of homelessness helps in many areas when someone is experiencing homelessness. The biggest part of it is if a person experiencing homelessness has some people call it a homeless letter, or they call it homeless verification or certification of homelessness. All of them are the same. So when someone has that and they apply to either a Section 8 waiting list, or they apply to public housing for a public project-based voucher, then if that housing authority has prioritized persons who are homeless, then that would mean that that person would have their application towards the top of the list. So that person's application would go towards the top of the list if they are experiencing homelessness, because they have to get everyone that is, homeless and without a home, without a stable place to live. The government have to get those people into homes before they are thinking about giving Section 8 or housing choice voucher to someone who is already housed. And so persons who are homeless, for many housing authorities nationwide, this is every state in the United States, nationwide, every person that is experiencing homelessness, their application for housing may be prioritized if that housing agency prioritizes homelessness. Another population whose applications are prioritized are persons fleeing domestic violence. If a person is fleeing domestic violence and they either are in a domestic violence shelter or they're someplace safe away from the abuser, but they need housing, their application gets prioritized. Okay? The other part is if a person suffers a disability, for instance, let's say someone uses a wheelchair and they have trouble getting in and out of the bathroom where they live because the wheelchair may be too wide for the bathroom's entrance, or maybe the building itself, it doesn't have a ramp and they have to go up steps to be able to get in and out of their apartment. If they have an application with a public housing agency, their application can be prioritized if they are able to provide a letter, or perhaps their doctor. They don't have to have their doctor provide this now. They can provide a letter to the housing authority indicating that they're living in a unit that is not accessible. Okay, that is not accessible and accommodate their disability. Okay, and that they need to move as soon as possible into a unit that is accessible. Now, when a person is with a disability having to do with mobility, they're in a wheelchair or uses a walker, and where they're living is not accessible, it could become a danger to their very life, because in the event of a fire, they would not be able to get out quickly to safety. And so a person with a disability who's living currently and in a unit and housing that is not accessible, okay, that person is able to provide a letter to the housing authority, or they could have their doctor back it up, their letter, indicating that they need to get into housing that is accessible as quickly as possible. It doesn't have only to do with a person with a wheelchair. A person could be someone suffering with heart failure or pulmonary, breathing problems with their problems with their lungs, pulmonary issues. And so it could be that the stairs are too much for them, and they need to live someplace that is a lower level, okay? And so housing is supposed to be made, housing is supposed to accommodate a person's disability so that everyone can be able to live someplace where they are safe, so that everyone can be able to live someplace where they are safe and in a dwelling that they can enjoy. If they're not safe in that dwelling, if they cannot get in and out of the bathroom in that dwelling, if they cannot get in and out of the building that easily, then they would need to get into someplace accessible as quickly as possible. And the housing agency is able to do that. They're able to address that by prioritizing that person's application. The other part of it is if a person is paying more than 40% of their income in rent, if a person is paying more than 40% of their income in rent, so more than 40% of what that person earns every week, every 2 weeks, that money is going towards rent, and they are hardly having enough to live on. That person's priority, it becomes a rent burden issue. Rent burden, okay? Rent burden. And with that, that person can be able to submit to the housing authority that I'm suffering a rent burden, provide their pay stubs, and request to expedite their application. When a person completes I'm going to upload with this the self-certification of homelessness form. I've had many questions on EHV Collective asking about whether the self-certification of homelessness form is for their state. I designed one that is generic. It is generic. It is for every state, any state. If you cannot find one for your state, you can use that self-certification of homelessness in whatever state within the United States that you live in. That form, you could use an additional sheet of paper or additional sheets of paper if you need to add more information. There is an instruction, step-by-step guide that comes with the form so that you're fully informed how you should complete it, what you should include. It would be helpful if you have a vehicle to add pictures of your belongings that you keep in your trunk. If you've been evicted, it would be very helpful to add the eviction notice, any letter from the marshal when they came to evict you. If you are someone that suffered a domestic violence and you had to flee, if there's a police report concerning that domestic violence incident, if there is a hospital, if you didn't contact the police about the domestic violence issue, but you went to the hospital because you were bruised, you can include the discharge summary from the hospital with that self-certification of homelessness. If you are at a shelter, that shelter should provide a letter that would verify your homeless status. If you have had a letter verifying your homeless status from a shelter and it's a year or more old, it's a year or more old, it's over a year old, then you will need to complete another one, something that's more updated. The self-certification of homelessness form by Tell the World Ministries, it's designed to help you not to have to jump hoops, because I've had calls from people where they had to go to a certain place at a certain time very early in the morning in order to get a homeless verification, and if they didn't make it in time enough to be seen that day, perhaps they were only seeing a certain number of people, then they would miss that opportunity to get the homeless verification. There are people that they do not have a vehicle. Some people do not have the money to get on a bus, and some areas don't even have a bus service. And so people have had to jump hoops, a lot of bureaucratic stuff to try to get a homeless verification to prove that they're homeless when they're homeless. And so the self-certification of homelessness is designed to help you through that. And if you go somewhere with that self-certification of homelessness and you have any issues, any entity that is saying that they're not going to accept it, then you can give Tell the World Ministries a call at 404 407 0213, 404 407 0213. And our email address, you can email me, sisterdina.3@gmail.com. That's SISTER D as in David INA dot and the number 3 @gmail.com. And if you have a counselor that needs for me to speak with them, I will speak with them. But you should have no problem at all having your self-certification of homelessness accepted. That is the reason why I added the at the bottom part of that form that you have to sign it. Don't sign it when you complete it. Don't sign it right away. Sign it in front of a notary public. Bring your ID. Sign it in front of a notary public. If it so happens that you do not have ID, but there's someone that is going to be living in that same unit with you that has ID, then let that person that has the ID complete the self-certification of homelessness. Okay? So that, and then you would add that person's name to your application for housing. All right? Now, I'm not suggesting to you to just add someone to your housing application just because you do not have ID. If you do not have ID, it is very important for many, many reasons for you to get yourself a valid state ID. It's very important. Okay? Now, if you have, I am planning sometime in the near future to do a question and answer session so that any questions a person may have, they could be able to ask those questions and I would answer those questions. If I'm not able to answer your question at that time, I promise you that I will do the due diligence to research and get you the correct answer to your question. If you are a participant of the emergency housing voucher and you are a person with a disability, and due to your disability it would cause a hardship or disruption in your treatment, mental health or physical, mental health or medical, then if your doctor deems it necessary for you to remain living where you are so that there's no disruption in your treatment, and so the doctor can be able to write a letter indicating that. Okay? And you can text me at the number 404 407 0213, 404 407 0213. If you have an emergency housing voucher and you're a person that suffers with a serious and persistent mental illness, major depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, that's just some of the illnesses. You can be able to go to your local DBHDD provider. That would be a mental health facility, a community services board that is contracted with the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities to provide outpatient services. If you are receiving outpatient services for your mental illness at a DBHDD provider, with a DBHDD provider, and you are the client, you have housing instability, you're either homeless or at imminent risk of becoming homeless, then you could be able to, depending on how long you've been homeless, if you've been homeless for a year, you can be eligible for the Georgia housing voucher. If you have an EHV that is sunsetting, you may be eligible to get the Georgia housing voucher. If you have been homeless for less than a year, you can be able to request to get into a transitional housing under DBHDD. That would be between 30 to 90 days. 30 to 90 days for the transitional housing. I'm sorry, let me go back to that. That's respite. That's respite for emergency housing. For respite, that is 30 to 90 days. For transitional housing, that would be a year to a year and a half. A year to a year and a half. Okay, 18 months. For transitional housing, there's the level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 or type of group homes where the individual needs 24-hour supervised care. So there would be someone there 24 hours, 1 or 2 staff members always there in that unit with them, with more than one client. Excuse me. With the level 2, the person lives independently, sometimes in a shared unit with one other person, and uh, and that person lives with support. There's staff that's on the grounds that would provide support to that individual. But they live in their apartment shared unit with having their privacy. They're able to get up and cook anything that they'd like. And it's a very good situation to where they can be able to learn how to manage living on their own. It's a step from being able to live on their own. Okay. Tell the World Ministries is a HUD 811 referral agent. Tell the World Ministries is a HUD 811 referral agent. And what that means, that we are able to complete on behalf of an individual who has a disability and needs support services. HUD 811 is for persons with disabilities that need support services. They're between age 18 and I believe up to 62, 61, I believe age 61. And so if a person is with disabilities and they meet that criteria and they need support services for a HUD 811, a client does not mean that the support services have to be on site. It could be remotely provided. In other words, the case manager or the organization that is providing the support services, it could be as simple as reminding the person to pay their rent, connecting them to food banks for to be able to have sufficient food, helping them set up transportation to get to doctors, providing advocacy services. And so HUD 811, the HUD 811 program, it's similar to these project-based housing. Okay, so the person would, it's not a voucher that the person could go and look for an apartment somewhere. These would be similar to project-based. It's that subsidy is attached to that unit. That subsidy is attached to that unit. So while the person lives there, they would be paying 30% of their income. 30% of their income. So if you have a disability and you are interested in applying to the HUD 811 program, then you can contact us at 404 407 0213, 404 407 0213. Or you could go to, let me say the number again. I think someone didn't quite get it yet. Let me say the number. That's 404 407 0213, 404 407 0213. You can go to our website at sisterdina.com. That's SISTER, D as in David, INA. SISTER, D as in David, INA. And when you get there, you can send me a message. You'll see where you could be able to send me a message and say, I'm interested in applying for HUD 811. I'm a person with disabilities. And if your disability is mental health related, and I find that you would be eligible for the Georgia Housing Voucher, then I would route you to that and assist you with that. if you are a person. Now, I want to make sure I let you know that the HUD 811, it's a waiting list. It's not immediate. But when we do the application, there are you have the choice to select 6 counties. The more counties that you select, the more chance you have of quickly being housed, or more quickly being housed. So you can choose 2 counties that you'd be interested in living in. You can choose 3 or 4 or 5 or the entire 6. You could choose up to 6 counties. Okay? If you have an emergency situation, you're currently homeless, I would say to choose these 6 counties. Okay? And if your situation is very urgent, we would make sure that we indicate, attach a letter with that, with your doctor's note of how urgent it is, okay, for you to be housed. If I am forgetting to share anything with you on this morning, please, you have any questions that I have not answered. I went over with you concerning the self-certification of homelessness form. The self-certification of homelessness form, it will not only help prioritize your application for public housing or a Section 8 waiting list, it can also help you with getting support services that are provided, that are funded by HUD or by any other federal agency to help people who are homeless, people who are experiencing homelessness. For instance, an entity, an organization can be funded to help people who are experiencing homelessness with their laundry, with getting their ID cards, with job search, with food, with transportation. Any entity, any organization that is funded to provide support services to the homeless, that letter will help you to access those services. If you are, there are some states, if you have a homeless verification letter, that you would not have to pay for the renewal of, let's say, a state ID. There are states, I know Florida is one of them. If you have an EBT card, you do not pay to get a state ID. While I'm here, I'm going to share with you that the biggest part about being homeless, I have had more than one experience of homelessness myself. I was homeless as a teenager. I was homeless as a teenager. Twice. Before I had my children, okay, and after. And after. And I was married quite young, not by my doing, but it was a forced marriage. But I experienced homelessness again as an adult more than once. And there are some things that we go through in life, we don't know why. We don't know why. Why, Lord? Why, Lord? Why? But let me tell you, even though I would have wished never to have gone through those experiences at that time, but I can't say that I would right now ask God to take away any of those experiences. Because having gone through the experiences of homelessness, I equate homelessness almost to the category of being told you have cancer or divorce. That's how bad homelessness is. A person don't know what it's like. I used to look at people's windows. I used to look at windows and wish that I could be on the inside of one of them. I used to just look at windows. When I would drive by somewhere, I used to just look at windows, wishing I could be on the inside. I have had to wash up in hospital bathrooms, in Walmart bathrooms with my baby wipes and alcohol, in Walgreens bathrooms, CVS bathrooms, gas stations, to keep myself clean. There was a period of time in my life where, because of mobility problems in my legs, I wasn't able to walk on my legs good enough to use a walker. So I had to use a bedside commode for a whole year. I couldn't go to my bathroom, but I kept clean with baby wipes and alcohol. I learned how to brush my teeth while not being in the bathroom. And again, I would not take away any of those experiences. I'm telling you, when they're happening, you feel like you're in that fiery furnace, and you feel like, Lord, get me out of here, get me out of the situation. Please, you're begging God, get me out of the situation, make a way, open a door, Lord God. You know, and God doesn't answer yet. And sometimes we're going through the situation we're going through for learning, not for you, not just for you, not for you, for others, so that we would be made ready to serve God, so that we could serve with humble hearts, so that we are not people that look down on anybody. Because there are so many people with positions. They have titles in front of their names and titles in back of their names, and they treat God's children so badly. So badly. And God don't want that. He doesn't want that. So before he could use us, he breaks us. Before he could use us, he breaks us to make sure that we would serve his children with humble hearts, compassion, love, I had a transitional home, and I used to house people that are homeless in my transitional home. But there was so much more for me to learn. So much more for me to learn. And I thank God that many of the people that I have assisted, they found a way to keep in contact with me. I love each one of them. They know that I love them. Some of the situations didn't turn out well, but they knew that I loved them. And they find a way to get in contact with me. And I would serve them and serve them again. It hurts my heart when I read your stories. I want you to know, when you write to me, I read everything you write. When you write to me, I read everything you write. And my heart aches. And I pray for you. I pray for you. I pray for you. May God help you. May God help you. And I do the physical work. And God gives favor to help me help you. Without God, I can do nothing for you. Without Him, I cannot do anything for you. It is only with Him, through Him, that I can do anything for you. And so when you write to me, I talk to my Papa. I talk to my Papa about you. And he tells me what to do for you. Because you are his child. It hurts so much to read about brothers, sisters experiencing homelessness who have cancer, heart failure, kidney disease. It is already so difficult to be homeless, and then to be going through chronic illnesses, terminal illness. It's terrible. I want you to know that as your advocate, I will fight for you. As your advocate, I will fight for you to be able to have right to housing that accommodate your needs. I will fight for you. I will fight for what the law, the Fair Housing Act says, for the protections that are provided to you by the Fair Housing Act, for the protections that are provided to you by Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, for the protections that are provided to you by the Homestead Mandate, for the protections that are provided to you under the ADA Act, American with Disabilities Act. I am here to serve you. My services are paid by the Lord. They're free to you. My services are free to you. They're paid already by the Lord. And so, EHV Collective, EHV Collective, there's a meeting today with DCA, Georgia Department of Community Affairs, a virtual meeting, a virtual office. It's not a meeting. I'm sorry, it's not a meeting, but it's virtual office hour between 12 and 1 that you're able to call and have your questions answered about the emergency housing voucher. I've listed some questions that would be good for you to ask. And I know that there are many others around the nation that's going through the same thing with the emergency housing voucher. Please reach out to me. Give me a call. Give me a call. I want to hear about your situation, and I want to help as best as I can. I love you all so much. I love you all so much. This is Sister Dina, founder and housing advocate. I don't only advocate for housing, but I advocate for your civil rights, your human rights, right to education, employment, right to be treated fairly, equitably, and with dignity, to have autonomy in your care, to be able to self-direct your care. I love you. Love you. Love you so much.